Hey folks, Steve back with another episode of Papa Says. And with the launch of the Papa Says podcast, I've decided to move all the associated content that was on What's Up New London over here and keep the What's Up New London cast to just local announcements, public service, current events, that type thing. So with that, I'm moving the Boomer segment. Hopefully you've seen some, hopefully you enjoy it. But the Boomer segment will now be over here on the Papa Says podcast. And today I've got a Boomer segment for you that'll take a look back at some characters from late night TV in the Cleveland area. If you were a child of the 60s or 70s, I'm sure you'll remember them. For this Boomer segment, we'll take a look back at late night TV. If you were an adolescent or young teenager in the early 60s or 70s and lived in the Cleveland television market, you more than likely spent Friday nights anxiously waiting for the news to end. Then it was time for shock theater in the late night movie. From 1963 until 1966, Ernie Anderson hosted Shock Theater under the alter ego of Ghoulardi, a hipster that defied the common perception of a horror host. While this version of Shock Theater featured grade B science fiction and horror films, Ghoulardi mocked the films he was hosting and spoke in an accent-laden beatnik slang. Often, comedic sound effects or music would be inserted in place of the movie's audio track, and sometimes Ghoulardi would insert himself into the movie and appear to run from the monster. He loved firecrackers, and although their possession was illegal in Ohio, started by blowing up apples and leftovers and graduated to blowing up model car statues and pretty much anything else viewers would send in. Anderson's irreverent and influential host character was a hipster. His costume was a long lab coat covered in slogan buttons, horn-rimmed sunglasses missing one lens, and a fake Van Dyke beard and mustache, along with several messy, awkwardly perched wigs. He wore the disguise on camera so that the notoriety of the character would not interfere with his conventional outside voiceover work. Anderson's crew lit his face at his unusual angle to create a spooky effect and shot his face extremely close up, which they broadcast to an undulating oval. During breaks in the movies, Ghoulardi addressed the TV8 audience in a part beat, part ethnic accented commentary peppered with catchphrases. Anderson improvised because of his difficulty memorizing lines. At his peak, Ghoulardi scored 70% of the late night audience, fans sending in over 1,000 pieces of mail a day. The Cleveland Police Department attributed a 35% decline in juvenile crime to the Friday night show. Anderson quipped, "Nobody wants to steal a car in a blizzard." Anderson abruptly retired the Ghoulardi character and stopped performing live in 1966. He left Cleveland, moved to Hollywood with thoughts of pursuing an acting career, but admittedly had lifelong difficulty with memorization. He moved behind the microphone when Fred Silverman made Anderson the voice of the American Broadcasting Company. Most Ghoulardi fans never realized it was his voice they heard in the ABC bumpers in the 70s and 80s saying, "This is ABC." Anderson's voice is likely best remembered for introducing and promoting the ABC television series The Love Boat, and for his newscast introductions at various ABC stations across the country. Eyewitness News starts now. Well, those of us born late in the boomer years weren't destined to miss out on all the fun. After Anderson left Cleveland for LA in '66, Ron Swede, who had been a frequent guest and ultimately a production assistant for Anderson, left for Bowling Green State University, but continued to help with the production of the Houlihan and Big Chuck show, which was Ghoulardi's replacement on WJW. 1970, Swede approached Anderson with a proposal to revive Anderson's Ghoulardi character, but Anderson wasn't interested, but gave Swede his blessing to revive the character on his own. And with that, Swede took The Ghoul to Cleveland's Kaiser Broadcasting, WKBF, Channel 61, in 1971. Though it started as a tribute to Ghoulardi, Swede soon developed his own eye-catching gags and energetic style. Shooting from no-budget studio sets, the Ghoul inserted his own dialogue and sound effects over insufferably bad B-movies, blew up food, model cars, and figurines with firecrackers, and produced strangely compelling and culturally relevant skits and parodies. The show was destructive and childish enough for little kids and subversive and timely enough for young adults. Late in the 70s, it was syndicated in several other markets and enjoyed various degrees of success. Despite the popularity, Kaiser eventually canceled the show in '75 amid complaints from parents about the content of some of Swede's skits, as well as the permanent closure of WKBF by Kaiser Broadcasting. But the Ghoul show resurfaced on independent Detroit station WXON Channel 20 from '77 to '79, and followed by a brief stint at WGPR Channel 62 for several months, also in '79. WKBF's successor station, WCLQ Channel 61, again in Cleveland, revived the show from '82 until the spring of '84. Swede was on and off the air in Cleveland and Detroit for over 3 decades, at times even branching out into radio and the internet. The Ghoul returned to Cleveland TV in 1988 on WBNX Channel 55, where he remained for the next 6 years on Friday and then later Sunday nights. He also did a Saturday night request show on classic rock station WNCX 98.5 FM during the same time period. There you have a look back at the Ghoulardi story and the Ghoul. I hope it revives some good memories of late Friday night spent with the Ghoul, some pizza, some 2-liter bottles of pop, and maybe a sleepover at a friend's house. Well, there you have a look back at a couple of crazy characters from Cleveland late night TV. Hopefully bring back some fond memories for children of the 60s and 70s. Till next time, that's what Papa says. Stay safe and watch out for deer.